The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor, your host, and we're going to be continuing the conversation about firearm industry updates, firearm industry laws. I will start by saying there was a change in the law last month in North Dakota. Previously, North Dakota did not recognize the Illinois concealed carry permit, and now North Dakota law generally authorizes any person who would otherwise be eligible for a concealed carry permit, and in North Dakota it's known as a firearm dangerous weapon license, to carry concealed firearms in most public spaces without a permit if they possess a driver's license and other ID card issued by the State Department of Transportation or by that individual state or territory of residence. So if you have a driver's license and you're not prohibited from owning firearms, you can carry in North Dakota. North Dakota's law requires people of carrying concealed firearms without a permit to notify any law enforcement officer who stops them that they possess a concealed firearm, and they also carry their ID card or digital image of their ID card with them at all times when carrying concealed firearms. That's a good thing. So North Dakota has become a constitutional carry state. So I mentioned in the first half of the show a group called Liberal Gun Owners of America. And this was kind of founded by a gentleman named David Yamini, who is a sociology professor at Wake Forest University in the South. He has this class called Sociology of Guns. It starts off at a shooting set range. It introduces people to the culture of firearms. And I contacted him. Hey, do you offer this online? And no, we don't, because it's in person. It's a seminar. People are interactive. And so we can't really offer it online. However, a week ago, I saw an announcement that said Sociology of Guns, public webinar planned for spring of 2024. This article goes on by saying, after years of people asking me if I would offer a public version of my Sociology of Guns class at Wake Forest, I'm finally going to give it a try this spring. Specifics, including how to sign up, are forthcoming, but for now, some observations about the course include there will be no tuition. It's free. The model here is MOOC, Massive Open Online Course. I'm going to offer the course as a service to the community in response to a number of requests I've gotten over the years to have a public version of my Sociology of Guns course. Obviously, some of the best parts of the course I teach cannot be replicated online. This is largely going to be lecture and Q&A. The course will run for 10 or 11 weeks beginning in February, which is very soon. I will teach the course one day a week for up to 1 hour as a Zoom webinar. I am very much looking forward to this course. It is free. That's the best price available. But if you want more information, please reach out to me via my electronic business card, which is at marcusmelnick.com. That's MARCUS, M as in Mary, EL, N as in Nancy, ICK.com. It's my electronic business card, marcusmelnick.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see you in the class. And if you have a safety element to your life, to your job, you do something safety related, I might want to have you on the show. So that's another way to reach out to me. I'm going to segue a little bit into a safety topic. The United States, parts of the United States, have been sacked with horrible winter weather, unless you're a penguin. And this horrible weather, at least in the Chicago area, resulted in wind chills, negative infinity. It's like negative 20, negative 30, which is just bitter. I inhale and my nostrils freeze. We also been hit with a little bit of snow. Not bad for being mid-January and having our first couple snow dumps. I'm actually appreciative of that. But I want to talk about prepping. And prepping doesn't necessarily mean digging out a bunker in your backyard and having concrete walls, but it means preparing for a disaster. And that disaster could be financial, it could be physical, it could be weather related, and in this case, it is weather related. So a lot of people lost power, a lot of people lost heat across the Chicago area, and that's just what happens with our infrastructure. And let me share with you some of my preps. I got a bunch of canned food in the house, and it's not like I have a bunker with lines and lines and lines of canned food like you see on movies and TV shows. But I've got a bunch of cans of soup. I've got some free-dried camping food, and I can cook it. I also have several gallons of bottled water. And that way, if our water is compromised and I don't mean like, oh, there's a terrorist attack, our water is compromised. What I mean is there's a water main break. Did you know most fires happen in the winter? And that's because people are using heating devices. They're using space heaters. Their furnaces catch on fire. Their dryers catch on fire. And because we're inside, it's higher endangered. People use fireplaces more often in the winter. And as a matter of fact, one of the departments I worked for was a public safety department. And if you look in front of your fireplace, if you have one, there's typically stone or tile. And that's not just aesthetic. That's in case a log rolls out of the fireplace, it'll roll onto a non-combustible surface. There was a house on the North Shore that had carpeted all the way up to the fireplace, and that's exactly what happened. A log rolled out right onto the carpet caught on fire, the house burned down. And for those who say, oh, well, hey, it's carpet fibers. No, it's glue, and glue ignites fast. It's nylon, it melts, it has caustic substances, not just smoke. And that's why a lot of firefighters have cancer later in their careers, because they're exposed to these toxic carcinogens. Point I'm making is make sure your fireplace is safe, have it swept every year, and have a little bit of firewood on hand. It could even be those logs you buy at Menards, and they're already wrapped in paper, they're compressed. A lot of them are pine or they're sap, just so that you can heat your house. A couple other things that you might want to consider is a generator. Now, I don't have a generator. It's a little bit cost prohibitive for me. I don't have solar panels. That's another thing for self-sufficiency. But I do have a ton of food, water, warming, blankets. I have the ability to shut off my water. Now, that's another safety thing. If it's going to be below zero, what I do is I go to my faucets that are on my exterior walls, and I have them drip or run just a little bit. When water freezes into ice, it is the only substance that expands. Most things, when they get cold, they shrink. Ice is 4% greater volume than water, and that's why pipes burst. The pipe itself gets frozen. There is no compression of water. It's very difficult to compress water, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the pipes burst at their seams, or they burst mid-seam, and then you have a huge mess and disaster in the middle of winter. When I worked at a healthcare retirement home, there was a family or a retired person who went to Florida for the winter. I went in their house because they didn't winterize it and they didn't heat it. And it looked like the scene in Empire Strikes Back when Luke Skywalker is kind of glued to the ceiling of an ice cave. That's what the house looked like. It had stalactites, stalagmites of ice. I mean, the whole thing was coated. The whole house was ruined. The only thing left standing after the renovation were the exterior walls. It was horrendous to see. And with that said, we talked about water possibly being impacted. In the wintertime, fires happen. The water distribution system is tested, and a lot of times water mains break because of a fire in town, and that could affect a lot of people. So you might have boil orders, more common in the winter. as the crews have to dig, find out where the leak is, and repair it. And this happens often when fire departments are shutting down after a fire and they're turning off the hydrant. So, and I've done this. I haven't broken a water main, but I've done this. So when they're closing the hydrant, they are supposed to do a quarter turn at once. Quarter turn, wait a minute, quarter turn, wait a minute, quarter turn, wait a minute. And it's kind of a slow process. And as we are turning off the water is actually getting compressed. And we do it a little bit at a time so that any of this compression will be let out of a person's sink, toilet, hose, wherever they're doing water. That's where the additional pressure goes. They don't even notice it. When a firefighter actually spins the wrench closed on a fire hydrant, that creates a ton of pressure inside the distribution of the water system, and that creates the water main breaks. So a lot of times right after a fire in town, there is at least one, sometimes multiple water main breaks, and it's 2024. A lot of the towns in Chicago suburbia have infrastructure that is over 100 years old. If you think back to one of my previous episodes over the summer with the Explorers, I had the assistant superintendent of Public Works of Skokie, and he explained, hey, look, our infrastructure is over 100 years old. He didn't say this, but I'm imagining it's relatively fragile, and there's a plan to replace it. You replace so many feet of pipe at a time, but it takes time. It takes money. So there might be parts of the system that are older that aren't as strong as you would like them to be. So that's why I have bottled water. I also have a ton of pasta and non-perishables. So with that said, I would encourage everyone to prep. And I don't mean for zombies. What I mean for is to prep to stay in your home. If you need advice on that, you can always reach out to me. My electronic business card is marcusmelnick.com. And we're going to pause for a little break right now. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. We've got a couple concealed carry classes coming up. One of them is going to be in Evanston next weekend. It is open to the public, and if you're interested, you can always reach out to me. Again, my electronic business card is marcusmelnick.com. This class is not publicly advertised on my website, so you do have to contact me for the link to register. The next public-facing class, now the people who have arranged this semi-private class have opened it up to the public. So if you're interested, let me know. My next public-facing class is actually Super Bowl weekend. Oh no, Super Bowl weekend? Don't worry, you'll be home in plenty of time to watch the game. I want to be home in plenty of time to watch the game also, because we usually have a little side bet going on with my family. It's usually you have to do the dishes for a week, or take out the garbage for a week, or stand on your head and spit nickels or something. I think last year we did money or like an Amazon gift card. Small bets. and I tend to lose every year. Because I'm not a sports fan unless it's the Chicago Bears, and we all know they're not going to be in the Super Bowl this year, maybe not even next year, but someday. So we have some fun with my family. I'd encourage you to do that as well. The Super Bowl is not really a holiday, but it is an opportunity for friends and family to get together. And recently I got together with my family. Very interesting. We celebrate Christmas, and if you know anything about me, you know I'm Jewish. What? You're Jewish and you celebrate Christmas? Yes. I have a set of cousins who several generations ago converted to Christianity. These cousins are the epitome of what a good Christian should be. They have such a depth of spirituality. They are kind to everyone, and sometimes they invite people into their home to live there, and sometimes they invite people to Thanksgiving dinner, and these are non-relatives. One of my cousins works with foreign exchange students, and one year for Thanksgiving, there were 2 students there. One was from Qatar, and one was from, I believe it was Nigeria. These people were immaculately dressed, beautiful, beautiful people. We've also had a contingent of, I think it was like 8 or 9 people from Japan who were in town through student exchange program. And there was a little bit of a language issue, but very nice people. And I'm the turkey. I'm the turkey carver. So here I am. I'm carving the turkey. And Don, one of the people who is a friend of our cousins, was there. And he's an older gentleman, and the guy's hilarious. So here I am. I'm cutting the turkey. And he comes in and he steals a piece of meat. Now, everyone does that. And I give him the stink eye. Now, this is all an act. He and I have a shtick going on. But these Japanese foreign exchange students didn't know that. So here he's stealing just a tiny piece of dark meat, and I look at him and I get angry. And I'm making air quotes. I'm not really angry at him. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And this is what he did. He looks at me and he's like, dark meat. And all these Japanese foreign exchange students look at him. And I was like, no, white meat. And then they look at me. And then we're arguing over dark meat and white meat. And it was just like a beer commercial. It was hilarious. And these people thought we were serious. And then we both just lost it and started laughing. And then that kind of relieved the tension for them. They laughed as well. So, like I said, the Super Bowl is an opportunity to get together. Now, let me share with you, this isn't safety. This is just common sense stuff. What I like to do on the Super Bowl and on Christmas Day is I buy the half-baked, frozen Lou Malnati's pizzas. Do you know how busy pizza places are on the day of the Super Bowl? Do you know how, well, there's no pizza places open on Christmas Day, so that's why I have that in the freezer. I should have it in the freezer all the time because there's times where what we're going to have for dinner is I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. So with that said, I would highly recommend get together with some friends. We do this just my immediate family, whoever happens to be here. We sit on the couch and we watch the commercials and we laugh. And I hope the commercials this year are good. And we could not have a conversation about firearm news without talking about the NRA, National Rifle Association. Earlier this month, Wayne LaPierre resigned as leader of the NRA. He ended his decades-long reign over the prominent gun rights group days before the start of his civil trial in New York. In announcing his departure, LaPierre, the organization's executive vice president, said he has been a card-carrying member of the NRA for most of his adult life and that he would never stop supporting the NRA and its fight to support the Second Amendment. According to the Associated Press, the longtime head of the NRA operated as the king of the NRA, spending lavishly on himself, punishing dissident and showering allies with the country club memberships and no-show contracts, a lawyer for the New York Attorney General's office told jurors earlier this month. His methods as the NRA executive vice president and CEO allowed him to operate the powerful gun rights organization as Wayne's World for decades. Assistant Attorney General Monica Connell argued in an opening statement in a civil trial scrutinizing his leadership and spending at the nonprofit. LaPierre, who said Friday is leaving the NRA, LaPierre left the NRA after leading it since 1991. He sat stoically in a seat across the courtroom as 6 jurors and 6 alternates were seated for the trial, which is expected to take about 6 weeks. He moved to the front of the gallery as Connell spoke, her argument augmented by a slideshow showing the NRA's leadership structure and expenses in the case. LaPierre charged the organization more than $11 million for private jet flights over the years and authorized $135 million in NRA contracts for a vendor whose owners provided him repeat access to a 108-foot yacht and free trips to the Bahamas, Greece, Dubai, and India. How do I get in on that? LaPierre is 74. He consolidated power and avoided scrutiny by hiring unqualified underlings who looked the other way, routing expenses through a vendor, doctoring invoices, and retaliating against board members and executives who questioned his spending. Okay, I just take back what I said. I could not work in that environment. I have worked in dishonest environments, and there are reasons why I no longer work in dishonest environments, both in the public and private sectors. I was the honest person among dishonest other people, so I could not work for the NRA. So in one example, the NRA's former chief CFO, Craig Spray, found himself unable to log in to the computer system of the organization after he objected to LaPierre's way of doing business. In a November 2020 email to organization brass, Spray took issue with the boss's authoritarian rule, writing, "There are no Wayne said approvals at the NRA." I'm not exactly sure what that means, but that's what he said. So LaPierre kept quiet about the gifts he received from vendors until the morning he testified in the NRA's failed bankruptcy in Texas in 2021. He had been checking no on an internal disclosure form that asked if he had received any gifts more than $300. His actions and that of the entrenched leadership that enabled his alleged behavior breached the trust of the organization's 5 million members. Their conduct violated laws governing nonprofit charities and the organization's internal policies governing travel, expenses, conflicts of interest, and whistleblower protections. I was a whistleblower once. That is not a good position to be in. They acted illegally over and over again, the jury was told. The New York Attorney General sued the NRA, LaPierre, and 3 current or former executives in 2020, alleging they cost the organization tens of millions of dollars from questionable expenditures. In recent years, though, the organization has been beset by financial troubles, dwindling membership, and infighting. LaPierre is accused of setting himself up with a $17 million contract with the NRA if he were to exit the organization. So that's his golden parachute. And spending NRA money on travel consultants, luxury car services, and 5-star travel. LaPierre has defended himself in the past, testifying in another proceeding that his yacht trips were a, quote, security retreat because he was facing threats after mass shootings. Now, I believe that he faced threats after mass shootings, but a security retreat? Come on. That's a good story, by the way. The other defendants, which are NRA's General Counsel John Frazier and retired CFO Wilson Phillips, not the group, but the man, have denied wrongdoing. Another ex-NRA executive turned whistleblower, Joshua Powell, settled with James' office on Friday. He's agreed to testify at the trial, pay the NRA $100,000, and forego further nonprofit involvement. On a private jet flight from Washington, D.C. to Dallas, Texas, with a stop in Nebraska to pick up his niece, LaPierre cost the NRA $59,000. With a Nebraska pit stop on the way to Orlando, Florida, also cost the NRA $79,000. An NRA policy shown in court said the organization only reimburses for coach-class airline flights. A commercial flight on the same routes would have run no more than a few $100s per person. One of the symptoms of trouble happened in 2019 when Oliver North tried to oust LaPierre with damaging allegations about travel expenses and accusations. Apparently, Ollie North was right. I haven't seen the court case, so that's me making an off-the-cuff remark. It's not factual. So LaPierre said that North had started to interfere with his leadership and allies among the most of the organization's 76 board members, and LaPierre won the struggle, ousting Oliver North. People, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was entertaining. It wasn't very humorous. There was a couple humorous points, but I hope that you will tune in next week when we'll resume our regular format of interviewing people in the safety world. Thank you very much, and stay safe. We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.